is DAR NBA Hoops Hour. Of course, I am true. I am here with my guy, Lee 10-Day Harvey. And I got my brother, obviously, Mr. Shock Sports himself, Shock is Apollo, Ken Moore. He goes by many names. Got my brother here with me. We are here to talk the NBA tonight. And well, man, let me tell you, um, we are gearing up for the NBA Cup, which pretty much starts tomorrow, right, Lee? I think it's tomorrow, right? I think it's tomorrow. That what I'm looking at right now in front
Uh,
of me?
Pretty
It's two
much.
games tomorrow.
There's no
So
slate.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so it's the quarterfinals for these next 2 days, and they start. It's two games tomorrow.
And if I'm not mistaken, actually, Apollo, who's playing tomorrow? Because I don't have it in front of me. I know one game that's happening Wednesday, and I'm pretty sure the Mavericks and Thunder is happening as well.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Mavericks.
So the Magic and the Bucks at 7, and Maverick and Thunder at 9:30.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Now let's get into those games because the Magic at one point, I would have felt good about their chances. Not so much anymore. Um, Franz Wagner's out indefinitely. Obviously, Paulo has been out, and he's haven't seen any recent updates on how soon he could be back. So, based on what I know, it seems like the Magic are going in with Tristan De Silva, Jalen Suggs, Tavius Caldwell Pope. Who else am I missing? Wendell Carter Jr. The
Hmm.
Magic are not going in with their best players at the helm against a Bucks team that slowly, unfortunately for us, fortunately for me, because I like seeing Doc Rivers suffer. But the Bucks are slowly starting to get it together right now. Giannis is playing at an insane level. Dame is starting to come into his own a little bit finally this season. So things are looking up for the Bucks. Magic and Bucks. Let me start with you, Lee. How you feel about that game, Lee? How you feel about that game?
um, that it would have been a lot better if Franz and Paolo were healthy, but it would and wouldn't surprise me if the Bucks either win by single digits or just lose. Because, well, as Doc Rivers on the other side, who knows what can happen in games like this. But I I personally think the Bucks should take care of uh, this Paulo list, Franz Wagner list Magic team. They should take care of this game pretty easily.
Yeah, unfortunately, it feels like a Torian Prince 20-point night is probably coming. Some dumb shit like that.
Yeah,
Um,
that too.
that's just how the NBA typically goes. Paulo, what you think? What do you think about this Bucks and Magic game? How do you see it? How do you see these quarterfinal games turning out?
Well, as for that game, I do think that the Bucks will win that game. I don't think it's going to be easy by any means. I mean, and I can actually see the Magic actually pulling that out. Though, now I will say this to kind of piggyback off what you said earlier, the Bucks are kind of riding the ship. They've been on a better path than they have been, especially like really early in the season so far, along with the Hawks as well. But I think that Giannis, what is Giannis? He's the leading scorer in the league, right?
Believe so.
Yeah. Please leading scorer. So I mean, he's just been on a tear all season, especially lately. Dame has been smoothing out a little more. But I think with the Magic though, they still have enough talent there where they could, sustain as they have been. I mean, they're third in the East, and a lot of people had them dead to rights without Paulo, and now they're without Franz. I mean, they still got enough where they could, make some things interesting. Of course, I'm not. It depends on how long these guys are out. I don't think they'll be making a whole lot of run. But as far as the cup, I mean, they could win this game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's out of the possibility. I do like Tristan De Silva. I like him coming out the draft. I mean, he's a good shooter, good perimeter player, and one of the things that the Magic desperately needed when it came to like playoff time, they had to use more scoring. And I mean, in the league in general, you need more scoring. I mean, that's the name of the game. So, just another piece that they got. Caldwell Pope. I mean, he's a champion. We already know about his perimeter game, so he's a good addition. He's going to have to step up a little more. Jalen Suggs, we know how he is. I mean, even what was it yesterday? They beat the Suns. I mean, and they didn't have Franz, in that lineup either. So, I think they got enough, and we got to put some respect on Gogo Bataz's name. You know what I mean? Like he's not a football. You got to put respect on.
I mean, you have a point. They and I don't want to jump too far ahead in talking about the Suns and some of their interesting struggles of late. But yeah, they did beat the Suns, and for my money, I'd say the Bucks aren't that much better. I think the X factor for the Bucks is always going to be Giannis. So if Giannis can go out there and play like he plays, I'm not going to depend on Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Torian Prince, and Dame Lillard to get the job done. Giannis does not know how to turn it off ever. It feels like most times. So I think he'll go in kind of with like a renewed sense of wanting to win, and I think the Bucks will probably pull it out. But I don't think any of these cup games are going to be blowouts. We've been getting a lot of blowouts, a lot of terrible games in the NBA this season. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do expect the Bucks to win. Now, the other cup game, the Dallas Mavericks against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let me start with Apollo. What do you think about this particular game, and how do you see it going?
Well, I think this is going to be a pretty good game. I'll say that. Off top, I'll say that. I think the Mavericks, they're on the longest winning streak in the league. I believe it's 7 in a row that they won, and I believe it was like 11 out their last 12 in total, something like that. But they're finding their rhythm. They're showing that that they're a good team. And even with that, sometimes you think teams will have like a finals hangover or something like that, but I don't feel like they have it. I feel like they have a renewed sense of look, we belong. We're a good team. We're going to try to sustain and try to go on a run here. Now against the Thunder is number 1 in the West. I mean, they're a really good team, even without Chet. I mean, Jalen Williams is a dog. SGA, of course, is a dog. The addition of Isaiah Hartenstein, I mean, you're talking about value. What he gives them for like grit and off the glass, his presence. I mean, you can't say too much about it. I like their young players as well. I mean, mostly all their players are young, but they're younger players. Dylan Jones, the rookie out of Weber State, he's starting to find his role. Because I remember early, like in summer league and even the beginning of the season, he was kind of like, all over the place, trying to do too much. I mean, he's a rookie. Most rookies, do that. But with the skills that he possessed and his body type, like he's a big guy, but he can move. He's nimble. He can play, the wing, or he could play a small ball four, if you want to, when you get him in there. And that's just more depth that they have. So I think that this game would be interesting. But I think Dallas is going to pull it off. I think Dallas is going to pull it off. Luka's killing right now. I mean, how many triple doubles has he had? I think he passed what, Wilt and James Harden in the all-time triple double list. Like he's doing something special right now. And I think the Mavericks are going to pull that out. And Kyrie's balling, of course. But I think the Mavericks are going to pull that one out.
Interesting. Lee, how you calling it, man?
That is going to be one of them ones, especially in an NBA Cup setting. Wow. I'm actually leaning towards Dallas. I feel like they have more firepower. With PJ Washington, I feel like he's gained some confidence, especially when Luka was out. Also, Najee Marshall, he's been kind of a wild card when Luka was out as well. Yeah, and we already know what Luka and Kyrie are capable of. They've seen this team. They beat this team in the playoffs. I feel like it will probably be like one of those games where it's like 115, about less than 10 seconds left, and either Luka or Kyrie is going to get the final shot. Me personally, it should be Kyrie. I feel like it's going to be one of those type of games.
I'm going to disagree with you both for two reasons. One, I want no good to come to the Dallas Mavericks, and two, honestly, I actually think what you just brought up, Lee, is a motivating factor for the Oklahoma City Thunder going into this game. OKC was number one seed last year. They took an L to the Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs, and I think that loss stings because I think OKC had enough. If they just aren't seasoned enough. They weren't as seasoned as say a Luka who had been in the playoffs multiple times, a Kyrie who was a champion. Now that you have Najee Marshall, you got Clay, you got all these guys on the Mavericks, and it's like they're a well-oiled machine, they're a well-seasoned team. But the Thunder, when they lock in, look like a different team. So I feel as if this is not the same OKC as last year. Obviously, with with Isaiah Hartenstein and some of the additions. Obviously, they don't have Chet, but I don't necessarily feel like the loss of Chet is going to impact them as much in this game because they're the number one seed and they've played good teams. They've lost to some good teams and they are very capable of losing. But I just feel like for some reason they really want this in this particular game. So I'm going to go with the Thunder, but I obviously think this is going to be a close game. But all good things come to an end. So, Mavericks take the L. But there's an interesting elephant in the room for semifinals if the Mavericks win, and I believe the Warriors are also going against the Rockets, right? I don't know how to. So there is a potential story there that the NBA, if you want some drama for your cup, and the last time we saw Dallas and Golden State play against each other, I mean, they had a classic.
Yeah.
So I think that there is something to that as well. And we know the league. Couple guys getting foul trouble early on. We know how they do. So I I could definitely see it, but I don't know. I just think this OKC team is they're really good. And speaking of fouls, I mean, I don't think there's many players better in the league than drawing a foul right now than SGA. So I think the Thunder will pull it out, like barely pull it out, but I can see the Mavericks. I can see the Mavericks getting it, but for my sake, I'm hoping the Thunder beat the Mavericks. I don't really want to see another Clay versus Steph game, especially not in the NBA Cup. Just not something I really want to see right now. Say that for like the playoffs or something like that. I just don't want to see that shit. But that, well, by the time you hear this, by the time you listen to this later on tonight, but Wednesday's games are really interesting. We revisit an interesting rivalry that has been a thing for a couple years now, which is Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks against the New York Knicks. Now, we've heard the New York Knicks say fuck Trae Young, their fan base, fuck Trae Young, fuck Trae Young. Well, guess what? You got him again. This time on big stakes. I mean, the Hawks they started off rough. They're sort of like the Bucks. The Bucks and the Hawks are both interested in this way, which is why I think it could be very possible that they end up meeting in the semifinals. Is the Bucks started out rough, the Hawks had a rough start, but Trae Young has played outside of I think last game against the Nuggets where they got slaughtered. But outside of that, they've had some quality wins. They played some decent teams. They beat some good teams. They're going against the New York Knicks team that looks good, for the most part. But the Knicks are not I don't think the Knicks are exactly what everybody expected. They've had really good games. They've blown out teams, but they've also let other games slip that we might not expect them to lose. So let's start with you, Lee. Hawks, Knicks. Who you got in this matchup?
I feel good about the Knicks taking it. If there's a time to like have one of those Jalen Brunson Cat 30-point games from each of them, because they are capable of doing that. Tomorrow, Wednesday night, would be a good time for that. I don't know who on Atlanta can defend Cat, because I think he had like a 30-15 game against them earlier this season, and he's kind of had a silently very good season. OG Anunoby's has been on a bit of a nice run lately, and Mikal Bridges is slowly getting back into the thick of things. If they can get a decent game from Miles Bridges, that'll help. I mean, Miles McBride. They can get a decent game from him off the bench, that'll help. I feel like the Knicks will take this one.
Apollo, what you think? What do you think? Hawks, Knicks. Who you got?
I think the Knicks are going to win this game. I actually think the Knicks have been a little better than people, especially at this point. Especially how they started off a little rocky when the season began, especially on the defensive side. But Cat has fit a little better. He's been putting up numbers. He's going on a tear, actually. Um, I mean, OG is still, you know, what they call what he say better than Kawhi, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. The greatest
Yeah,
defender ever, or something like that.
but he's been good. Um, I mean, I actually like the next Miles McBride. I mean, he's been a pretty good player. Um, Jalen Brunson's been doing his thing. He's been a little off lately, but I mean, still overall, he's a great player. Um, the Hawks. So it's interesting with the Hawks. I feel that they had a really rocky start to the season, um, but I guess that you could say that they've, like I said earlier, righted the ship a little bit. You know what I mean? I mean, they lost last night, man, the last game. But other than that, I mean, 13-12, they're above 500. I mean, that's kind of a lot that you can ask.
Mm.
Um, one of the things that I will say about the Hawks is I'm really sold on that kid Jalen Johnson. Um,
Hmm.
he's putting the world on notice. He's a really consistent player, like a Swiss Army knife. I mean, he can do it all. And he has a real good size for he plays. And Dyson Daniels is showing a little something. Um, I believe he's like what in the top 3 or 4 when it comes to like steals or something like that, some defensive category he's in. I'm
Yeah,
like
steals per game.
steals, yeah, steals. So I'm like, I mean, that's pretty good. And coming from where he came from, I believe he was drafted with New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, wherever he went, he
Hmm.
just wasn't really showcased like that. Now he
Mm-mm.
looks like he's been developed a little more. The number one pick, Zachary Risachet. I mean, that kid was better than I thought. I will say this: I wasn't that high on him coming out the draft. I mean, I know he wasn't even in the consistent number one pick, but I always thought like while he was a good player, he just didn't stand out to me. He still doesn't stand out that much, but his tools and what he can bring, I mean, actually impacts games quicker than what I thought. Um, and of course, with Clint Capella still killing on the glass and Nectar still killing on the glass. I mean, I think they got a nice little squad. They just got to put it together. Quinn Snyder, I'm not sure if he's going to, I'm not sure if he's the right coach, but he's getting something out of him. Um, and but I mean, as far as this game, I still think the Knicks are going to pull it out though. They just have more firepower.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily disagree with you all, but for the sake of being contrarian here on the show, I'm gonna go with the Hawks just because, just just because one, I believe in Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, Trae. I don't necessarily really believe in Trae Young, but against the Knicks, I do believe in him. Now, logically, the Knicks should probably win this. Um, but the NBA is such a weird place sometimes that we could be looking at a Magic versus the Hawks type of deal, and I think in some ways that might be better for the game in general. But the Knicks are built to win, so I believe the Knicks should, but the Hawks absolutely have enough to get it done, and they've been playing really good basketball. So I'm going to take them, but logically, like I said, I think the Knicks probably will find a way. But I think the Hawks are going to give them a lot of problems, a lot of trouble. They got some pieces on that floor, and I believe in some of their pieces. So, and in the final game, quarterfinals, Golden State Warriors versus the Houston Rockets. Now, obviously, the Houston Rockets believe the stat, which is probably a jinx that could happen. The jinx for the Warriors, I think the Warriors have won, what, 14 or 15 game straight against the Rockets or something like that. I don't think
Damn.
that's what they said. I think that's what they said the other night when they won without Steph. On the floor. I believe Andrew Wiggins, who missed the last game. I believe he's on. I think he left the last game early, and then he missed this last game. He's supposed to be able to play, able to go. I think the same thing was said about Moses Moody, who left the other game for the Rockets. Haven't heard anything about any major injuries. Rockets, one of those teams that kind of shocked a lot of people so far with how well they've been playing. Very deserved spot in this NBA Cup. My question is, Warriors Rockets games taking place in Houston. Let me start with you, Lee. Who you got? Warriors or Rockets?
I got the Warriors. Um, they've made a move that I think for him it's been long overdue. They moved Kuminga to the starting lineup, and I think he is paying all kinds of dividends because in that last game against the Rockets, without Steph and Draymond, he took over, and he had a career high 33 that night, and I feel like they don't even have to get that kind of night for him. If they can get a 22 point game from Kuminga, I feel like Steph can take care. He's still good enough to take care of the rest. But Houston, they got a chance too. As long as Jalen Green don't have one of those inefficient nights, because I feel like they got no shot if Green shoots like 4 for 17 or a 5 for 16 type game.
Yeah, Jalen Green has some of them games, man. He has those games when he disappears. And before I pass it to Apollo, I'll say one thing in particular. I'm gonna go with the Warriors. Obviously, I'm gonna go with the Warriors. Obviously, but the Rockets absolutely have a chance. But this is the same Rockets team that was down like 33 points to the Warriors on the road without Steph, DeAnthony Melton, and they still blew a lead and ended up going to overtime. So it depends on what Warriors team shows up. I think they made a change to the start lineup in general. Kuminga's a starter now. Maybe Draymond will start as well. Kevon Looney has kind of started to look like the Kevon Looney of last couple seasons. Not last season, but 2 seasons before that. He's starting to look like himself again. Gary Payton II was put into the starting lineup, and we saw down the stretch against Minnesota the other night that Gary Payton was able to, put Anthony Edwards in hell. So if you bring back Andrew Wiggins and who's been really great defensively, Kuminga showed defensive promise against the Wolves and in general last couple games since he's been given a larger role. It feels as if the Warriors are slowly starting to get it together in some way, shape, or form. There's been a little bit of a rough patch. But make no mistake about it, you still got your Fred VanVleet, you still got your Jabari Smith, you still have the Jalen Greens, you still have Sengun. You have enough players on that Rockets roster to go out there and really, really make a difference against this Warriors team. But going with the experience in big time games and just how much it feels like they want this, I'm gonna go with Golden State personally. Apollo, who you got? Warriors and Rockets.
So they faced each other twice already this season. Warriors took both games, but I think like the difference was like 6, 7 points both times, so it wasn't really that big of a margin. The Rockets have been really impressive this season. Ime Udoka, he's a really good coach. despite all his troubles off the court. I mean, that's his business, but he's a damn good coach. He's establishing a culture.
Mm-hmm.
I believe one of the differences in those two games. Well, I'll say this. Kaminga had a really good game. I think he had like 33 that first game they played this year, but he's gonna have to have a big game. I believe that Kaminga is coming to his own. All in all, I mean the Warriors are a really solid team. I mean, even though like their last 10 games, I believe they're like 4-6. So it's a little bit of a small snide, but I mean and you know Steph's been in and out. Draymond's been in and out, so they have a couple of injuries, but they'll get it together. Um, Podzinski, I mean, he's as solid as they come. Um, I mean, and when you go to the Rockets, I mean, Jalen Green, I mean, he has to have a big night. Even though he didn't have a huge night, even the last time they played, and they almost came away with a win. So I mean, he has to at least get 25, like an impactful 25.
Mm-hmm.
And Fred VanVleet, I mean, he's gonna have to hit a couple threes. Like they're gonna have to keep up with the Warriors. I mean, that's easier said than done, but I mean, it can be done. I mean, let's be honest, this game is a game of runs. You can get hot in the streaks and hot streaks and cold streaks all the time. So it is what it is. Um, I mean, the Rockets, their last 10 games, they were 6-4, so it's the complete inverse of them. But I mean, all in all, I think it's going to be a pretty good game. I think it's going to be a pretty good game, but I think the Rockets are going to lose this one.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned the difference in those first two games, and the biggest difference in both of those two games is that Steph didn't play, and this will be the first game that Steph gets to play against the Rockets so far this season. I believe Draymond might have missed the first game, and I think Draymond and
Yeah,
Steph both missed the second game. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what type of game we get with Steph and Draymond both on the court finally against them. I mean, it is funny that we'll come in like the NBA Cup because like they sat out. That's typical old nigga shit in the NBA, right? Like niggas,
yeah,
niggas miss the games that really don't matter. They show up for the games that do matter. So, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say before we move to the next topic that I think Draymond defensively has been much like himself, whereas I think the last year or two with all the other stuff surrounding him, like the suspension, the Jordan Poole stuff, he didn't look like himself that much. He looks more like himself now. And as bad as the Warriors have been on offense during this little slump they've had the last 10 games and those 5 straight losses, I think that's really been the issue is that Steph missed a couple games, Draymond missed a couple games, their offensive connectors have missed a couple games, and the rotations were terrible. You know, I don't have anything positive to say about Pajeski personally because I actually think he's a big part of why they were losing so many games because he has not been dishing the rock out like he needs to. He has not been putting his teammates in proper position. But I actually think one player who needs some more minutes on the Warriors is Kyle Anderson. I actually think Slow-Mo has been, I mean, he's gone on runs himself to help bring the Warriors back in certain games. And when they couldn't score, he's taken on that load because he's a veteran. And that's what the Warriors need on the floor at all times. They need at least 1 to 2 veterans in the starting lineup with, you know, younger guys like your Moses Moody's, your Trace Jackson Davis, you know, your Jonathan Kumingas, your Pajeski's, like all those different guys that are still fairly young. They need a couple of veterans, and I think Kyle Anderson fits that role. Obviously, Gary Payton second, Buddy Hield. So it just feels like a little more experience, a little different type of experience on the floor for the Warriors versus the Rockets. But I'm interested to see what Jalen Green does because Jalen Green has been up and down so far this season. And to me, definitely up and down so far. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the NBA Cup. We are literally right here. It's been what, 23, 24, 25 games so far. And we finally make it to the NBA Cup. But that's not the only thing that's going on in this league. I mean, we gotta talk about 104 was it 104 points in back-to-back games in
Yep.
total. I mean, Jokic, man, Jokic has been. I c- I can't say enough about this dude, man. He is proving that he not only is he the best player in basketball, but it's a pretty sizable gap between him and, and a lot of people. So let me start with you, Apollo. How you feeling about this Jokic season? Even though the Nuggets aren't, running away with the conference and not, the greatest right now, but how you feeling about it?
All right, so right now, as we currently stand, Denver is seventh in the West. Uh, they won their last game, but they've been like 500 over these last 10 games. So they haven't they haven't been setting the world on fire. They did have a sluggish start at the beginning of the season. They looked a little lethargic, a lot of points. The team has been called out by their coach, by a couple of the star players. So, but and I know Jokic had missed some games earlier, but since he's come back, I mean, he's been like destroying cats. Like, I mean, he got like okay, let's just look at some of these numbers: 48 and 14 and 8 against
Mm.
the Hawks, 56, 16 and 8 against the Wizards. Yes, these are the Hawks and Wizards, but still, production is production. And the Nuggets are on the road, mind you. 27, 20, and 11 against the best team in the East. Some say maybe the best team in the league against Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And then against the Warriors, the game before that, 38, 10, and 6. So like he
Mm-hmm.
he just he just and is on 50% and above field goal shooting. So like I mean he's really efficient. I mean as always, but like I mean like what is he? He's the leading rebounder in the league. I mean he's like what second in the league as far as scoring behind Giannis if I'm not mistaken. So like he's just I don't know man. It's just great. Now put it like this is a true MVP season to me. Like, I mean, it's a lot of talk about the award, the MVP award, and all that, and that's across all sports. Like, what's the criteria? It always seems kind of fluky at times, but to me, the most valuable person, most valuable player, is a guy that without that player, this team is dead. I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about bottom barrel type of stuff here. And to me, I mean, and seeding doesn't matter to me. Like, it doesn't always have to be the best team. You know what I'm saying? Like the best player from the best team getting that award. I think some flaws to that. But I would say if there's ever a year that Jokic deserved MVP, he's a championship year, of course. But this one right here, because they are in slugfests. I mean, you know what I mean? They're having close games against bad East teams. You know what I
And
mean?
lost to the Wizards.
So
Lost.
I'm just saying, and they lost to the Wizards. So you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But Jokic himself is just absolutely dominating, man, and it's great to see, man. He's the best in the league. He's the best in the world. Best player in the world.
Yeah, that he is. Real quick before I get to you, Lee. In the midst of Jokic's amazing run, he had an amazing 56-point night against the Washington Wizards. Big shout out to Jordan Poole for dropping almost a 40 piece and I think nine threes. It's been a rough season for the Wizards, rough season in general. So big shout out to Jordan Poole. Went out there and I mean he was putting on, man. He was just so quick, so fast. Russ couldn't guard him. Nobody could guard him. So big shout out to Jordan Poole for that. But Lee, how you feel, Lee, about this Jokic season? You think he MVP right now? You think he getting that fourth one? And there's only a few people with four MVPs in the NBA history. So you think he's bound to get this fourth one?
Oh yeah. I I don't. Well, he would have to fall off for an extended amount of time for him not to get his fourth MVP. And like what Apollo's basically said, they can't afford that from Jokic right now or as we go forward into the season because he has to put up MVP type performances every night because although they are getting games from Michael Porter Jr. and Christian Braun, but they had they have not much to mention about bench wise, and Jamal Murray has kind of disappeared this season. It started in the Olympics, but I have no idea what happened to Jamal because it used to be Batman Robin with them two in Denver, and now it's just Batman running things, and it's not good enough. And uh, I seen a graphic on ESPN. If they even wanted to make a move before the trade deadline, they don't even have the assets. They they have no first round picks and only one second round pick. And even if they wanted to make a move, they can't. So yeah, for sure. Jokic is going to. I see him getting his fourth MVP, but it's going to be a hard road for them to even get to the second round if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, fourth MVP looks mostly likely, but don't see that second ring coming.
Mm-mm.
Jamal Murray ain't got it like that no more. You got Russell Westbrook on your team. Not really boding well for your championship aspirations there, Denver Nuggets, but it's all good. Before we get out of here, I wanted to briefly just touch on something here. That the Brooklyn Nets and the Detroit Pistons are two teams that have been on the rise. And, obviously they're not doing, they're not like going to be contenders or anything like that, but they are showcasing improvement. And on the flip side of that, this mighty Western Conference. The Timberwolves are slowly finding their way. They had some slippage. They're starting to figure things out a little bit. Julius Randle and is to me, I think he's a team morale killer sometimes. Personally, and anytime the Wolves suffer, one of my best friends goes through it. So I'm starting to enjoy seeing the Wolves lose games a little bit. So that's always fun for me. The Phoenix Suns obviously also going through some struggles because Kevin Durant has been out multiple times this season. So that's something to look out for. The Sacramento Kings have been a major disappointment so far this year. I would think they are not looking like a championship contender. Bringing DeMar DeRozan somehow does not turn you into a championship contender. Keegan Murray has been up and down. Keon Ellis, shout out to Keon Ellis. I think Keon Ellis is actually a very solid player. But let me start with Apollo. Nets and Pistons kind of rising up. Suns, Wolves, and the Kings starting to slip a little bit. What do you feel about all those teams and where they're going heading into, I guess, post NBA Cup, the league post NBA Cup?
Um,
I think my
sorry about that.
you're good.
Sorry about that. That call.
Mhm.
So I would say this: the Nets, they aren't exactly the bottom barrel, I guess, team that many people thought they would be. I mean, they're still below 500, but I mean, they're at least 5-5 over their last 10 games. They show a lot of heart. They show a lot of grit. I mean, and the kids. I mean, they got some talent, but I really think that they're still rebuilding. I still think they got some guys that they're going to be trading away, so they're just showcasing them like Cam Johnson, um, Finney Smith might get traded. You know what I mean? So they just want the guys to show off, show out, so they can show their trade value maybe. Um, Even with the Pistons, I mean, they're 10 and 15. They're still below 500, but this is a far cry from where they were last year. I mean, they look respectable. Bickerstaff got them looking respectable,
Yeah, he
especially the new
does.
system. Yeah, the new system that he implemented. I mean, he's bringing he's showcasing Jaden Ivey more, and I guess he's putting everybody on notice about Cade Cunningham. I mean, he's just all around good playmaker. I mean, Cade Cunningham's a really good player. He had a few triple doubles this season. I mean, he can do it all. You just feel like he just needs a little more help because he can, he can do something for you. He's a good player, a really good player. So I see that their futures are going to be a little bright because of this. They're not necessarily going to make that much noise, but their futures are going to be a little bright. As far as the Kings, I'm very disappointed in them right now. Yeah, a few injuries themselves, especially with DeMar missing a few games and coming back, and things look a little out of sync. Devin Carter is still out. The rookie that they got this year, I'm really excited about him to start playing eventually. I don't know if that'll be this year. We'll see. Um, I mean, De'Aaron Fox is still giving you numbers. You know what I'm saying? He's still a little up and down. Keegan Murray, like Drew said, is up and down. The Wolves, they're getting together a little bit as of late, but they are a little disappointing too. Um, but I believe they'll get it together though. I mean, they got the grit. It's still early in the season. I'm not going to make too much of it. The Suns, yeah, I mean, the Suns, they're at least 500, above 500, along with the Wolves. With Durant being out, I mean, of course, that's never good, but you always know that Durant's going to miss some time. Basically, we already can pencil in that out of Beal, Booker, and Durant, time is going to be missed. If not all three of them at once, at least two out of the three of them, or one of the three of them will be hurt at any given time, all throughout the year. So it is what it is. But I do like their young guns. I do like Oso Iguodala, and I do like Ryan Dunn. I mean, they're still learning. Of course, they're rookies. I mean, they're not going to do so much, but they're learning. They're learning their roles. They're gaining roles. They're gaining minutes. They're gaining confidence, and that's always good because they have the length and the size and the defensive prowess where they can actually help this team, which is why this team drafted them. Because Phoenix, they need more defense. I mean, they got all offense in the world, but they need more defense. So I still, even though they're 3-7 in their last 10 games, I feel that they can, they'll eventually get it together. I mean, they'll still make the playoffs. I still suspect at the end of the year.
Now, Lee, what do you think about these five teams and their trajectory for the season so far?
Well, for the Nets and Pistons, for both of them, I feel like not much was expected for them, but they are playing beyond those kind of expectations. Where the other night, Brooklyn was competing against Milwaukee, and they didn't have Cam Thomas on the court with them. Detroit, like what Apollo said, they way better than last year. Cade Cunningham showing everybody why he was drafted number one overall that year. Malik Beasley has got more 20-point games this season than last year. Jaden Ivey's played well. Duran's a double machine. They got some players in Detroit. Minnesota, I think there's still some inconsistency there. I always know what I'm getting from Anthony Edwards, but everybody else is still a bit of a question mark. Um, I know it's his rookie season, but I kind of want to see Rob Dillingham contribute in some way because if he's just going to be sitting on the bench, I'm not sure that's good for his development. Um, Sacramento, I'm not too worried about them because they can they can score with anybody. It's just about defending possession after possession after possession, like what Mike Brown was repeating after last night's game. And Phoenix, they just need KD back. They're 1-9 without him in games without him this year. I didn't think they would be that bad without him, even when they had Beal and Booker playing at the same time. They still can't win games without KD. That does bolster an MVP case for Durant, but I don't think you want that if you are thinking about going farther in the playoffs than a first round sweep like last season.
Yeah, yeah. The Suns don't look great without Durant, and that's I guess the thing you got to worry about, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
will Durant be healthy enough for the playoffs, and will Beal make it to the playoffs? Will I think Devin Booker's probably like slightly the healthiest of the three, even though he's missed time too. So that's something to think about with the Wolves. As I've said, Anthony Edwards is my guy. I want to see him succeed, but he unfortunately has Julius Randle next to him and Rudy Gobert. So in that case, I don't want to see him succeed. At least from the team perspective, I'd like to see him go out there and score 30 a night and just ball out. But any team with Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert on it is an enemy of mine. So uh, that is that is how I'm calling it and how I'm seeing it for the Wolves as far as the Kings. And Kings are okay. They can score, but it's very hard to have a good defensive team when you have a Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan on your team because Sabonis is decent, but he's never been known as a great defender. DeMar DeRozan is never been a good defender, like never really been a consistent defender. De'Aaron Fox can go out there and guard too, but he's not considered elite on the defensive end or even close to elite on the defensive end. So I think that's a bit of the issue with the Kings. As far as the Pistons go, Cade Cunningham is the real deal. I mean, he has impressed me. I think that if he remains in Detroit, he is the future, and they need to build around him. They need to give him some more pieces to work with. But he has shown he can pass, he can even rebound, he can score the ball. He is he's everything that they need. That there's really
Mm-hmm.
nothing, or there's no way around it. He is what they need, and he has them at least looking mildly more competitive than they were in the past. And I think that's all you can ask for in that sense. So a big shout out to Kate Cunningham. As far as the Nets are just holding water until they trade all their guys away. I pretty much feel like Dennis Schroeder, Cam Johnson, those are two guys that you could, definitely uh, look at as being on the move. The real question to me is do do they move Cam Thomas, who is averaging 25 points a game? He is their leading scorer. He is the best player really on the team, and from an offensive perspective, he's looked like that. So he only makes like $4 to $5 million a year. So if there's a team out there that wants a 25-point scorer that's only cost 4 or 5 million. His play style is a little interesting. But if you're just a team that needs a guy who can go out there and get buckets, depending on what his hamstring issues looking like over the next couple weeks, we could possibly see them get rid of him as well, and move him. Cam Johnson seems likely to be moved, but what team needs him? A lot of teams need him, but what team is going to be the one to get him? So lot to look forward to in this post NBA Cup world, especially the trades, because the trades are going to start rolling in. It's December now. The next month or two is going to start rolling in. And as the NBA picks up and continues to get better as the year goes on, so does DAR Sports and Media. Of course, we have a bunch of articles on the Medium site. A good amount of them written by yours truly. Shout out to Tev. He has had a couple articles this past week. He wrote about the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets, both teams that are in the NBA Cup. And he has some more stuff coming this week. Of course, I have more articles coming. We have the football show coming up. We have college football show. We have World of Wrestling. I'm sure that'll be coming very soon. Obviously, Soul Revival 6, Time is of the Essence, PSA 2, all the DAR music stuff is going on and it's out now for you to listen and consume and enjoy. I think that covers just about everything. We got some other stuff we're working on, making some, send some emails, making, a couple calls to a couple people. So at some point you might hear what's going on with that. But a lot happening right now with us because the world of DAR, it never stops. Stop this recording, goddamn it. like